Only if it's quick, because I'm
super
getting
quick.
very hungry.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
quick. This one is a Dave Ramsey one, and it should be pretty brief, but it's I don't know what it's called. They should have their butts kicked, but I don't know what the premise is. We'll find out here in a second. And we'll play it faster because Dave is so slow.
Brought to you by the Every Dollar app. Start budgeting for free today. Cheryl is in Medford, Oregon. Hi, Cheryl. Welcome to the Ramsey Show.
Thank you, Dave and Rachel, for taking my call. This is a first-time caller, and I'm a little, I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're honored to have you.
Glad to hear, Cheryl.
Big breath. So I have a question. I'm in my late 60s, and I'm married happily to my husband. We have 5 adult children. I've been listening for about a year. And what's changed in my situation is my mom passed away about 5 months ago.
Sorry.
And thank you. It's been, she was sick for a while, so, it still was hard. But the situation is she left. We grew up on a piece of property there, and she's been there since about 1958. And we all grew up there, and now this property is in a trust, and we're all trying to figure out how to divide it amongst us. And it's just been really volatile. Not that I haven't contributed to it, because I am, a woman, but I just want to do and honor the Lord and just, honor my sister and my brother. But it's difficult because they've all put a lot of money into the ranch, and my mother has it in the estate that she wants it divided amongst us. And we've kind of been an outsider because we've branched in other places. And now we're here now, and we're just trying to figure out our role in that.
So what is the trust asking people to do, and what is it they don't want to do?
So that's a good question. But so you caught all that?
Yep.
So there's a ranch and a trust. She's got 2 other siblings, I think she said, and they're trying to discuss how to split it. I guess the trust says to split it evenly, but I guess her brother and sister have put money into the ranch. And so now they're trying to figure out.
Okay, I guess I don't feel like we've gotten to her question yet, and I'm going to be on his team for the question he asked, because that is information that I guess I was wanting to know too. Like, what
does everybody want?
Where is the resistance? What is somebody wanting that's different from the even split? And is there something else the trust says that there's pushback, or is it literally just saying divide this thing equally?
What this is going to come down to is, look, either they all can come to some sort of arbitration or agreement or whatever on how to split this, and they're all going to agree to it and sign off on it, or one of them is going to hold out, or one or more of them is going to hold out, in which case it's just going to get split evenly because that's what the trust says.
Right.
I mean, that's really all that's going to happen here. So,
all right, well, let's find out what she answers
to
this, because I guess I'm not totally understanding where there's a conflict yet.
Well, there's a conflict about who gets how much, I think, is what the...
I mean, it kind of that we divided equally amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
they can complain about it, but...
What was that?
I said they can complain about it, but if the trust is,
if it's
clearly saying something, it doesn't feel like an argument that goes anywhere, so to speak.
It's not
anyway.
Not a legal one.
Right. That's my point.
Let's see, how do I go about that? They invested it in areas that benefited them in kind of an area that they wanted to.
How did it benefit them? They didn't own it.
Did they make money off of that?
Yes, one was in hemp, trying to grow hemp for a couple of years and building a building that utilized that resource. And then another was...
Yeah, but that building now has a value, regardless of whether hemp's in it or not.
Correct, $50,000.
Yeah, and that building, if they built that building with their money, your mom didn't, that should be their money, right?
Correct.
If I was them, that's how I would see it.
Okay.
Which is, let me tell you, the whole idea that they would build a building on someone else's property without having everything lined out in the trust in detail was pretty stupid, because it sets up a big argument.
I honestly agree with them on that.
I agree with them on that too. If they put money into a building being put onto the property that was the parents' property, but it was their money that created that building, then they should be able to take that back out. It's not unreasonable to want that. Yeah,
but I mean, here's the situation, boys and girls. and we'll skip ahead on this video a little
But
bit.
is it saying that she thinks that she's entitled to that money? Is that what she's saying?
Well, here's the thing. I think she hasn't really put anything into this, right? And I think she's looking for, well, I want a third, even though, reasonably speaking, if she were being reasonable, she'd say, well, maybe we should find some way to make this more equitable, right? Because you put money into this. And she didn't. The other thing I would say is, okay, so you and me and Grogu here, right, are all on a trust to inherit the property, right? And the property, the trust says we each get a third of the property, or the value of the property, which means we're going to have to sell the property probably, right? Because if you split land up into thirds, what if your piece of land is better than mine? You're always going to get into a fight about that on a legal sense. So if he and I agree that, you know, he should get 50,000 more because he built a house right there or something, whatever, a building, and you disagree, guess what's going to happen? We can either go fight each other in court and spend thousands of dollars, or we can just concede, and it's going to get split three ways anyway. Because even if we go to court, it's going to do whatever the will says, because we don't technically own the property until the trust is fulfilled. So this whole thing is kind of like, I mean, I'm sure he's going to rant and rave at her. That's why I'm skipping ahead here. But essentially, it's like, yeah, I mean, if it's not settled in the will, it's not settled. But let's see what he says, because I think he skips, at this point, I think he starts talking about wills, what it says at least. So let's see if we get to that. Whoops.
And we did this. Doing this stuff is how people end up not speaking to each other generationally. You end up with the Hatfields and the McCoys. And so, yeah, it's just dumb. But anyway, that's water under the bridge. But let's say that you said, all right, we're going to take the buildings off. Now we run an appraisal. Then you get your buildings back. So you got your buildings back, and then I get my third of what's left. I would agree to doing that, and no $150,000 that is exchanged for the free rent. If you all agree to that, then little brother, the trustee, can go along with that. Otherwise, he has to execute the trust. Yeah. He does not have a choice. All right, guys. Last call about the estate that's messed up, and the late '60s brothers and sisters that are left fighting because their parents and them did business very poorly. What is the takeaway? Number one takeaway. If you're 18 years old or older, you need a will. Period. Now, let's understand what a will is. If I have a will, if I will it for, if it is my will for Rachel to be on the show, she's on the show, okay, as a guest or as a host, co-host, right? Okay, if I have if it is my will to wear a green jacket today, I will get it out of the closet. That's what you want to have happen. Is
Let's
your
get
will.
past this. I feel like you're talking a bunch of crap that's not valuable.
Well, he's trying to get to what the will is, which is what I'm trying to get to.
You want to have happen, and you are testifying to that fact. That's all that means. Yeah. So this is what I want to have happen when I do a will. And the executor of the will, the word executor is one who executes. They execute what I wanted to have happen. They don't have a choice. Same is true of a trustee on a trust. The executor can't change the will. It's not their job. And even if they don't like it, even if they think it's not fair, they can't just change it. The trustee can't change the terms of the trust. It's not their job. Their job is to execute what that person intended to have happen, what they wanted, what they willed to have happen, and they testified to that fact. Okay, so keeping your will up to date is huge. It should be done in the state, according to the laws of the state in which you reside. So if you change states, get a new will. Any other major thing that happens, divorce, get a new will. Death of someone that's in the will, get a new will. Update your freaking will, because it's incomplete, it's wrong. You can't execute it if you live in Idaho and you did a will in Tennessee.
Well, that's not true. Okay, so that's all right. Okay, so different states have different laws about what constitutes a will or how it's going to be interpreted, but pretty much every state will recognize every other state's if you had a will in another state.
I'm going to guess it might make it simpler if you have things
it's better
in the state that you reside. That's probably cleaner. I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm going to bite on the idea that it's probably cleaner. Right. But I don't think it makes something invalid if you had one in, like if I had one from Oregon still, but I live in New York now, and then unfortunately something happened to me and that needs to be exercised, I can't imagine
No,
that
the state of New York will still recognize it. It's not
still going to recognize it, but it's having one in the state that I resided in is probably the best situation.
Well, or depending on property and whatnot, maybe it's the state the property's in. Because you want to look for whatever law is going to be most favorable. So, yeah, so that's kind of neither here nor there. But, okay, so we finally agree with Dave on something, and yet he already is a little bit wrong about how this works.
But it's still overall, I'm still overall in agreement with him, even though he's
well, there's nothing
this up a little bit.
There's nothing to disagree about. The thing is they can either come to an agreement or they have to just go with whatever the trust says.
Yeah.
Whatever the wording. There's nothing here to disagree on. I mean, that's my point.
Okay, it's not federal law, it's state law. Probate law is state law. So it's done according to the laws of the state you reside in when you die. And so if your will is done something or asked...
Actually, that's true, but the will can still be valid if it's from another state. In most states, most of the time.
For something to be done that the laws of that state you're residing in don't allow and you haven't updated it, you're screwed up the whole thing. This is called grown-up paperwork. Grown-ups do a will. Jesus, well, I might die. You're going to die. It does not increase your probability.
I feel like this part of the tirade is unnecessary.
Yeah, let's give him one more minute and we'll...
Probability of death when you do a will. You're going to die. There's 100% death rate in the human race, okay? Plus or minus a lot online. Shocker. It's a great will, but it's state specific. All of our legal forms, we've endorsed them for years. You've got a complicated situation, get an attorney, get an estate planning leaders at Ramsey, and we tell everybody again.
And it's labeled, if Dave dies this year.
That's the name of the meeting. If Dave dies this year.
Okay, the Dave dying meeting, he's going to talk about that. We don't need to hear that either.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all. I mean, yeah, he's just going to rant about a will. God, for fucking another 5 minutes. Forget that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, essentially, the thing to talk about is this. So, wills is basically just a legal document. Okay. And it says this stuff that's my stuff goes to whomever. Right. You can contest a will in court. Like maybe I wasn't mentally sound when I signed it or whatever. But it usually has me signing it. It's got to be in writing and it's got to be notarized. And that's pretty much the 3 general rules that every state recognizes. A trust, though, because I don't know why he's still going off about wills, because a trust is different. And trusts do have federal recognition because a trust is actually an account, right? And there's what's called revocable or non-revocable, or, like a living trust is a revocable trust, right? So if I put my property into a trust, it's actually all the ownership of the property is put into an account. All right. If it's a living trust, a revocable trust, I can take money out of it or take stuff out of it whenever I want. I just have to pay tax on all that. Right. So the tax thing changes. But let's say I'm leaving a trust, I'm leaving it to Lacey. Well, a trust has 2 things. One, it's an account, right? There's usually a trustee. And if there's cash or investments in there, there's usually a financial planner that's attached to it. And the financial planner manages the money, but he can't move money in or out of the account. He can just manage the money and pay the taxes. The trustee is the person who then would pay out to Lacey, right? If I left her money in a trust. So I can put whatever I want attached to that trust. I can put that Lacey has to ride a bike to work every day, and she has to show proof of that before the trustee can give her any money. I can add all kinds of crazy shit into a trust. Like, if I have a kid that's like, well, my one son's kind of a screw up and I'm afraid he's going to blow all the money, I can set up the trust and no, you only pay him if he's either in school or has a job. And then he can get his monthly check from the trust. So trusts can you can do a lot of things with the trust. You can put life insurance in a trust. I mean, it's
right. You can put a bunch of conditions on things. Yeah.
Yeah. You can put all kinds of stuff. So this is a different situation because with the trust, right, was probably the smarter move, but she probably put the house into the trust, right? Taxes are probably so she get a tax deduction, right? Because she can put that in as it's like a pre-deduction for basically inheritance. So she probably did that for a huge tax deduction, assuming I'm just going to give it to my kids anyway. But if the trust says we're splitting it 3 ways, that's a harder case to make in court unless everybody signs off on it. On a will, we can contest, well, wait a minute, though, I put extra money, or I took care of mom for the last 10 years and spent all this money. I can contest that with Lacey if we were both recipients of a will. In a trust, no, the trustee is just going to issue it. And the court's probably just going to back whatever the trustee does. So these are different things. So even when he's right, he talks about the wrong fucking thing. I don't know what to say with this guy. Because he's going off on wills and we're talking about a trust. So.
Right.
Always fun with Dave, man. Don't know what to tell you. Well, do you have any thoughts about that?
No, nothing further, really. Yeah. I mean, it was good to kind of clarify some of that, and he was going a little off on the will thing in general, but overall, I would say this is sort of one of the rare times when we and he align with each other. Like we don't necessarily disagree with any of that there. And yeah, it was maybe not necessarily the greatest way to do business, or that they didn't change anything. Probably this was already established, and then these siblings pumped a little money into this thing, and then they probably didn't go and change anything, which they should have to make it a little more equitable.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd imagine. If mom's
that's probably how it went.
Yeah, if she's like her mother's had the ranch since 1958, my guess is this trust is 20 or 30 years old and just never got updated.
It never got updated after the pumping in of money.
And that's why everybody's arguing about it now. Oh well, I mean, it's going to be either the word of the trust, or if they can all come to some sort of mutual agreement. And from what it sounded like she didn't want to give up any portion of that, even though she hadn't put any money into it. And I think that's what she was looking for, was some sort of answer from Dave about, well, no, that's your money. Right.
I have to say, I'm kind of pleased that she didn't get it.
Yeah. Well, I bet her brothers and sisters fight her on it, but anyway. Cool. Well, everywhere, that's pretty much the show. So where can everybody catch you, Lacey?
All right. So as always, if you want to see articles written by me, information about courses or workshops that I do, you can go to mysensewithsense.com. If you have questions about any of those things, or if you want to send us some clips, if you find a clip where you think we might agree with Dave, I would love for you to send it to us, because it happened today, more or less anyway.
Generally.
And where can people send that?
Yeah, you can send it to our email at gossipfinancead@outlook.com. Also, if you're scared senseless that there's a recession, you can always send us money for no reason.
Yes.
And we'll save it. We'll save it for you. You can trust us. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Don't send us money. Please don't send us money. Anyway, thanks, everybody.
Duncan, if somebody sends us money now because you said that,
I got to send it right back. Yeah. Don't send me money.
Send that.
Yep. Anyway, thanks, everybody, for watching. Don't send money. And have a great day. Thanks, Lace.